Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. We're here with the High Elves today, going to be taking on the forces of Chaos, so let's go ahead and jump straight to the army composition. My forces are going to be led by a prince on a horse here. He's backed up by his noble buddy. The noble's got anti-large armor piercing, whereas the prince himself just has awesome raw combat stats. Not the greatest AP or charge bonus, but 100 armor, excellent combat stats, and very fast at 78 speed. We've also got 3 units of High Elf Spearmen, 1 Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower ranked up to Silver 1 chevrons, rank 4. This is to increase its accuracy and refire rate. Then we've gone with quite a few heavy cavalry, 4 units of Dragon Princes, 2 on this side and 2 on this side, with a Lore of Life caster to help keep everyone alive. So, for my opponent's build, this is kind of why I wanted to show you guys this replay, is he's gone with a very anti-infantry focused build. He's got a couple of Marauders with throwing axes here, or it looks like just the one Marauder with throwing axe. Chaos Poison Warhounds with a Chariot. Same thing out on this flank. Unit of Forsaken. He's got some Chaos Spawn. 2 Chaos Marauders with great weapons. 3 units of Sword and Board Chaos Warriors with a Chosen. 1 Exalted Hero for some leadership support, and Sarther Bell. So, my guess is that this build is more meant to counter like a heavy infantry or bow build from the High Elves. I have seen some of you guys suggested in the comments, different various infantry heavy type builds. So I definitely think that this build was meant to kind of counter. You hold in place with the more defensive type infantry while the chariots kind of run shop through the lines. I do see the merit there of what he was going for, but unfortunately for him, I brought a very heavy cavalry build. And this is often what it comes down to. In a lot of matchups, especially when things are very even, it will very often come down to guessing what your opponent's going to bring, and if you can do that correctly or not. You can see a final transmutation being dropped on that prince there. I'm going to run the noble out of the area of effect so he doesn't take as much damage, but I don't think it was overcast because neither took very much damage here. We're able to isolate these hounds over on the far side with these dragon princes and the chariots as well. They are definitely not going to want to stand up and take that fight. Meanwhile, these Dragon Princes over here are getting a nice charge into these Chaos Spawn. Chaos Spawn, unarmored as they are, will fall very quickly to an elite tier shock cavalry like Dragon Princes if they're able to get a clean open charge on them, which they did here. You can see Big Bird's going to try to come in and support, but we've managed to kill off most of those Chaos Spawn, down to only 5 unit models, about 10% of their HP remaining. Meanwhile, you can see Chaos Warriors clashing in the front line. They definitely will beat High Elf Spearmen. There's no doubt about that. We're just trying to win the fight in other parts of the battle here. You can see this Exalted Hero, which was coming around, I'd imagine, to try and assassinate my caster here, is going to get pinned by the Noble and the Prince. And they're going to be able to take him down relatively easily, especially the anti-large armor piercing of that Noble. They'll be able to kind of see him off there. Meanwhile, Dragon Princes over on the far side are starting to take some damage from the throwing axes and from the Marauders with great weapons here. So we're going to pull away from that engagement and just let these spears here fix my opponent in place. Then we're going to come by and start running some rear charges. You can see, although my spearmen are losing out in this fight, they're going to lose relatively slowly because of their high melee defense. So they will be able to hold out for some time. You can see we're lining up for some rear charges here. And that Exalted Hero does go down to my Noble and to the Prince and the Noble. Getting a beautiful rear charge here with these Dragon Princes, and again, connecting on the Marauders especially will take a ton of shock damage, but even the heavily armored Chaos Warriors and Chosen will take some pretty severe shock damage from those Dragon Princes there, so just all across the line, crashing in with that rear charge, and at this point it's looking pretty grim for my opponent. He is going to finally inundate this Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, which has been able to fire away at large targets and do some pretty solid damage over the course of the battle, but they are going to get in here and take them offline, so bit unfortunate. You can see the chariots are starting to roll shop in my back line a little bit here, but there's not really many archers or other infantry for them to go after. Almost all my army's value is in the Dragon Princes and, the various cavalry here. So you can see Dragon Princes chasing Big Bird with the Noble and the Prince mixed in there as well. The Noble specifically is the one that needs to get a hold of Big Bird. I mean, obviously, Big Bird doesn't have much armor, so even the Prince himself will do quite a bit of damage to Big Bird one-on-one in melee. You can see the princess not wanting to get involved in that fight is going to be pulling away here. We're trying to cycle charge with the Dragon Princess a little bit. We've cycled out and got on those Forsaken, cycled back in and around with this unit of Dragon Princess, just about routed off those Chaos Warriors there. So again, you guys will see me very often use this strategy of using more defensive type infantry with this very strong, aggressive cavalry build. I think it has a lot of merit in a lot of different situations, and even against armored infantry or large targets, Dragon Princes can still hold their own. They will get outclassed in certain situations by, obviously things like Shaggoths or Chaos Knights with lances, even one-on-one. It will be very close, but I do believe they'll beat Dragon Princes. I would need to test that again. Last time I tested it, the Chaos Knights narrowly won, but yeah, at that point my opponent is going to admit defeat. So very well played to him. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that. That one was a little short, so we'll be taking a look at another replay here. But yeah, just all across the line, Dragon Prince is picking up an XP chevron each. Very nice work done there for my opponent. Again, he brought a very specialized kind of counter build, and it didn't end up paying out too well for him. So nevertheless, well played. And let's go ahead and take a look at the next battle here. So this time I've brought the Lizardmen, and we're going to be facing up against the High Elves. Now, again, it's all about, this video is all about guessing what your opponent's trying to bring, right? So against the High Elves, they're very, very likely to bring dragons because they're very powerful. They have a number of other flying monstrous units, so even if they don't end up bringing a dragon or their lord on a dragon, you still can get some really nice value from the lore of high magic. So we brought a High Slon, and a typical High Slon build from, if you guys have seen any of my High Slon replays before, 3 Skinks, 4 Skink Javelins with some Chevrons, 2 Skink Skirmishers, 3 Croxigors, 2 Pterodon Riders, and a Laser Lizard, as well as some support. You can see we Vanguard deployed right in front of the High Elf force, immediately going to be pulling away. Got 3 Lothern Seaguard backed up by 4 White Lions, a Lore of High Magic, Princess on a Star Dragon, and 2 Frostfire Phoenixes. So a very heavy air force for my opponent. And again, just kind of in the guessing game of trying to guess what your opponent's going to bring. Flying monstrous units are a very common pick for the High Elves, so I'm definitely glad I brought that Lore of High Magic. My opponent has also brought Lore of High Magic, which is going to be interesting. So we're going to be seeing Tempest dropped on both sides here, because this High Mage here does indeed have Tempest, which she's going to be using to very good effect on my Pterodon Riders here. You can see Laser Lizard's already opening up shots. It popped a solid shot on that Phoenix there. The Phoenixes, let's see here. They do have the Frostheart Phoenix, at least has a pretty solid armor. They also have this ability here. Looks like I just lost the tooltip, if I can get it to hang around here a little bit. They have this Blizzard Aura, which is a nice -9 melee attack. You can also see it has this attuned to magic, so if your magic is over 50%, they get 12% damage resistance and magic damage, which is very powerful. You can see both Phoenixes currently have that active. So that Tempest was dropped there, did quite a bit of damage to one unit of Pterodon Riders, and did allow them to get caught by the Frostheart Phoenixes. So what we're going to see now develop is an extended skirmish phase, similar to what what was it, Skaven versus Wood Elves replay I showcased a few days ago. Now it's my turn to drop a Tempest here, only this time I'm going to be able to drop it on my opponent's Lord, and we've overcasted it, so it's going to, number 1, last longer, and number 2, does much more damage. It's going to allow these Skinks to pull up on station, start unloading their Javelins and Blowpipes, and Paul, the Laser Lizard as well, is going to be able to laser some shots in here, get some nice damage done. The Princess has already taken about 30% HP damage, quite a bit of work done so far. Meanwhile, in the jungle here, my Pterodon Riders are just kind of kiting around this Frostheart Phoenix. My intention is to fly over this zone of the battlefield and then kind of turn all of these Skinks to fire in on here, or else if my opponent decides to charge down on the ground, we've got the Source Old Blood on a Cold One to be able to hunt him down. Again, just trying to pull up on station with the Skink Poison Javelins, but deciding not to get too far out of position there. Laser Lizard still popping off shots. Another solid shot on that Princess. Continuously applying that blind effect, which I'm not really sure. I would need to do some testing to see how much it actually affects her missile attack. But she does have a missile attack. She obviously carries a bow, has quite a bit of ammo, so that blinded, you would imagine, would affect her accuracy. At least it's supposed to on paper. Another Tempest being dropped there. That one was on mine, my forces, so you can see that unit of Pterodon Riders again getting terrified and taking quite a bit of damage. We dropped another Tempest here, and although this princess is down on the ground, if we go look at the tooltip here, you can see she actually is under the effects of that Tempest even still. So because we were able to get it off while she was still in the air, she is going to be affected by that. You can see just unloading the javelins here. The Bastiladon, the Laser Lizard, is going to be charging straight into combat as well. Just put it into melee mode and decide to come bully this dragon a little bit. You can see that princess is already in a really bad situation. My opponent, meanwhile, is advancing up through this forest here. He's taking his sweet time, which, I mean, you definitely want to, but he wasn't taking any artillery fire because my artillery is focused on his lord. So a little bit of a strange pick there. I'm going to need to pull back these skink skirmishers, or they'll take a lot of damage from those Lothran Sea Guards. So we're going to pull back into a nice defensive position here. It's worth noting I've deployed in the water, of course trying to take advantage of the aquatics special rule if at all possible. You can see that Phoenix was able to chase off one of my units of Pterodon Riders, but we still got the Skink Chief here, and he's going to continue to fly around and be annoying to my opponent. A little bit of a miss there on the Laser Lizard, but only about 25% HP left on the Princess. They're going to be dropping that Apotheosis, trying to heal her back up. That Frostheart Phoenix down to about 50% HP, and so far so good. I'm not sure where the other, yeah, the other one's over there, and it looks like, there it is, another Tempest. Going to be dropped on my Skink Chief there. I do believe the other Pterodon Riders were all routed off, so unfortunate for me. We do still have the Skink Chief. It's going to take a little bit of damage here. Just continuing to poke away with that Laser Lizard there. That Princess has really taken a lot of fire. That being said, my opponent's Lothran Sea Guard are starting to focus fire on this Bastiladon here. Some of them, though, are firing at the Skinks, which is a monumental waste of ammunition. If anything, they really need to be focusing on these Croxagors, which pose a huge threat to my opponent's White Lions. One Phoenix has come down to try and attack the Slan in melee, but immediately going to start taking blow darts. And this Saurus Old Blood, as soon as I notice, is going to be hooked into combat as well. That being said, the Slans aren't complete pushovers in melee, so it's not like he's going to just get completely owned there. You can see this Frostheart Phoenix managed to stray in the wrong position, is now in the middle of all of these javelins and blowpipes, just taking an insane volume of fire here and going to be dropping momentarily. So a very, very unfortunate situation for my opponent's Phoenix there. Just went from about half HP to dead in a matter of volleys, and that's why I love these Javelin Skinks, because even though they don't have the most ammo, they're just by sheer volume of fire. 3 volleys of 120 unit models does so much damage. You can see that Princess is also taking quite a bit of damage, just continuously poking away with that Bastiladon, trying to negate any healing that she is going to be getting. The Saurus Old Blood did get hooked into combat here against this Frostheart Phoenix here, so you can see the Slan zapping the Phoenix, sending it on its way, probably taking off a couple of tail feathers for a fan later, so that the Skinks can wave a nice, cool Frostheart Phoenix fan in his face. I'd imagine that would be nice in a hot Lustrian jungle day. But nonetheless, a very rough situation for the High Elves. You can see the balance of power is turning more and more in my favor as this skirmish phase continues to go on. We're going to be dropping one more Tempest here on my opponent's Princess, and we should be able to, with that and the last of the ammo from the Bastiladon here, be able to finish it off. Bastiladon, thankfully, has been able to use all of its ammo despite being focus fired by several units of Lothran Sea Guard, but at this point it is going to be taken off the battlefield. That being said, we're likewise also going to take this Frostheart Phoenix pretty much off the battlefield. Not quite routed off yet, but it is going to be routed off temporarily, and yeah. Looks like an Apotheosis is trying to be dropped there to keep it back in the fight. We'll be able to heal a little bit of damage there, but it does get back up in the air. Now we're just going to kind of reunite here, and my opponent at this point is just about used up all of his ammunition on these Lothran Sea Guards, so once he's done that, you can see he was able to take out a full unit of Skinks right here. But again, that's only about, 300 resources worth, and, another 1,100 with the Bastiladon, so that being said, that Bastiladon was still able to fire all of its ammunition, so you didn't quite get all the value from taking that out. Because it was still able to fire all of its ammo. Likewise, this Skink is all combat ineffective, but it is still kind of hanging around here. We're just dropping an Apotheosis on this Skink, which has been taking some fire, just to kind of keep it nice and fresh. At this point, though, we're going to fast forward as my opponent uses up the last of his ammunition, and we drop one more Overcast Tempest. That should be enough to finish off this princess. We may need one more at the end of this, but that princess is getting awfully low, down to only about 396 hit points. So yeah, these Lothran Seaguard have just about used up the last of their ammunition here, and once they have, my opponent is going to go ahead and charge forward. We are going to drop that banishment right in the center of his formation, just to, again, trying to encourage him to come forward and finish this battle off, which he's going to now do. And I still do have some magic. The nice thing about the Salons is because they can get so much magic, you can really pump out a ton of Tempests, devastating to Flying Lords and Heroes, which is why I tend not to bring Flying Lords and Heroes against either the High Elves or the Lizardmen. The High Elves, more often, almost in every matchup, will take a High Mage, in my experience. The Lizardman, though, the High Salon's a little bit more of a stealth pick. You don't see him nearly as often as I think you should, just because he's such a useful caster lord. You can see the Tempest still going in the background, despite the dragon having been dropped. And yeah, you can see now the Croc Scores and Skinks getting the melee underway just at the edge of the water here, right where we have an advantage. Blood Statue of Spike going to be dropped on these White Lions, and between that and these Croc Scores, but just punching him and kicking him in the face, they are going to be taken off the battlefield in very short order. So, well played to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed watching these two battles. Just a little bit of a discussion on trying to guess what your opponent's going to bring, and it's always worth thinking about what your opponent could take, because in a lot of matchups, especially those matchups which are very close, you can take a variety of different builds, and even a faction like the Lizardmen, which you would think is relatively one-track. You know, you think of the Lizardmen primarily as just big dinos. They can, in fact, take a multitude of different styles of play and builds, and most factions can. So that's something you need to plan on, and that's why it's good to play with a lot of different factions and get to know different play styles, different possibilities. That way you can more effectively plan for what you're going to be seeing. Like in this matchup, you can see my opponent planned pretty well for like an Elite Saurus front line and some dinos. You know, the Frostheart Phoenixes and the Dragon would probably be able to do some pretty severe damage to big dinos, but instead I brought a very wide Skink army with a few units of Croc Scores for support and just lots of missiles and magic, and it ended up working out very well in my favor. We were able to take out that princess without her doing too much work. 31 kills, and did a little bit of work with her bow, not the most at the end of the day. Didn't really get to use any of the Dragon Breaths or anything. White Lions just got completely run over by Croc Scores. Lothran Seaguard got some okay work done, but at the end of the day, they didn't really shoot down the targets that I think they needed to, which was ultimately the Croc Scores. I don't know that 3 units of Lothran Seaguard would have had the ammunition to deal with 3 units of Croc Scores, but they could have probably at least focus fired down 1, maybe 1.5. It's tough to say. And then also losing out those Frostheart Phoenixes in that early skirmish phase, trying to take out those Pterodon Riders, which I definitely understand. The Pterodon Riders and the Skink Chief are massively annoying, but yeah. Ended up being a pretty rough situation for my opponent, but let me know what you guys think. How do you like to go about thinking about different ways, what your opponent can bring? Do you try and just bring a balanced army composition in hopes that you just catch, you know, whatever, and you can do relatively well against various types of builds? Or do you like to bring specialized counter builds to try and counter something specifically that you think might be meta or a common pick? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'm keeping it coming with more Total War Warhammer 2 content every single day, so stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.